Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. If you've lived in Hartlepool for any length of time, there's a good chance that Middleton Grange Shopping Centre has played some part in your life. For generations this has become one of the main shopping areas of the town. People came to shop, meet friends, grab something to eat, or simply spend the Saturday afternoon wandering around the stores. But like town centres across Britain, Middleton Grange has faced some difficult years. The way we shop has changed dramatically. Online shopping is growing. Out-of-town retail parks have become increasingly popular, and some of the big names that once dominated our high streets have disappeared completely. Middleton Grange has certainly felt the effect. Empty units have appeared, familiar shops have closed, parts of the centre look increasingly tired, but now there's an ambitious plan to give Middleton Grange and the wider centre of Hartlepool a new future. So today, we're going to have a walk around Middleton Grange and look at what's here now, what is proposed, and what Hartlepool Town Centre could look like in the years ahead. To understand why Middleton Grange needs to change, it's worth remembering what shopping centres were originally designed to do. For much of the second half of the 20th century, the indoor shopping centre represented the future. Instead of shops being scattered along traditional streets, retailers could be brought together under one roof. Shoppers were protected from the weather, cars could be parked nearby, and everything people needed could potentially be found in one place. For years this worked very well. Middleton Grange became an important part of everyday life in Hartlepool. At its busiest, the town centre was filled with familiar high street names and attracted shoppers from across the town and surrounding regions. But the retail world has changed enormously. Today people can order almost anything from their phone and have it delivered directly to their front door. Supermarkets sell far more than groceries, retail parks provide free or convenient parking, and many national chains reduce the numbers of physical stores they operate. This creates a major problem for large shopping centres. If there simply aren't enough retailers wanting large amounts of space, what do you do with all these empty shops? That's one of the big questions facing Middleton Grange. And the answer being proposed isn't simply to find more shops. The ambition is much bigger than that. Hartlepool's town centre's master plan talks about creating a mixed-use heart for the town centre. In other words, Middleton Grange will gradually become somewhere offering much more than traditional retail. The wider vision includes potential for shops alongside leisure, civic, educational and residential uses. The idea is to create a more compact and connected town centre where people can potentially live, work, learn, shop and spend their leisure time. And that's an important distinction. It isn't simply about giving an ageing shopping centre a fresh coat of paint. It's about reconsidering what the centre of Hartlepool is actually for. One of the criticisms of traditional shopping centres is they can be quite inward looking. Once you're inside, everything is focused towards the internal walkways, but from the outside the buildings can sometimes form large barriers between different parts of the town. One of the ambitions for Middleton Grange is therefore to make this area feel better connected with the rest of Hartlepool. Rather than thinking about the shopping centre as one enormous building, the longer vision talks about creating a series of streets, squares and public spaces that could potentially make this area feel much more like a traditional town centre again. It could help connect Middleton Grange with the other regeneration projects taking place around Hartlepool, because Middleton Grange isn't just being looked at in isolation, it's part of a much wider attempt to change the town. One of the particularly interesting parts of the redevelopment involves the former Binns department store. For many people in Hartlepool, Binns will bring back plenty of memories. Department stores were once the anchors of British town centres. You can buy clothes, furniture, household goods and gifts, often across several floors. But across Britain, many of the traditional department stores have disappeared, and the former Binns building in Hartlepool is particularly important as it's Grade 2 listed. Rather than simply demolishing it, the redevelopment plans involve restoring and renovating the building. The intention is to bring it back in to productive use with flexible spaces inside. Work is also intended to improve the retail entrance on this part of the centre. It's a good example of the balancing act facing Hartlepool. The town needs modern facilities and new investment, but there's also an opportunity to preserve buildings that form part of history. If successful, the Binns building could become part of Middleton Grange's future, rather than simply being a reminder of its past. Another important part of the strategy is recognising that Hartlepool probably doesn't need the amount of traditional resale space it once did. And Hartlepool certainly isn't alone in facing that problem. Almost every town centre in Britain is asking the same question. What do we do with town centres that were designed around far more shops than we now need. One possible answer is consolidation. Instead of spreading the remaining shops across a huge centre surrounded by empty units, retail can be concentrated in the strongest parts of the town centre. Other areas can be converted into completely different uses. That could include places to eat, drink, workspaces, community facilities, education, leisure, or potentially housing. The result could eventually be a smaller shopping centre, but a busier overall town centre. And ultimately, football is what town centres desperately need. The challenge is creating reasons for people to visit. Years ago, shopping itself was enough. People would travel into town, specifically to spend several hours browsing the shops. Today, that's far less common. So successful town centres increasingly need to offer experiences that can't simply be ordered from a website. That could mean cafes, restaurants, entertainment, market, community events, education, public services, workplaces and green spaces, and places where people simply want to spend time. Housing could also play an important role. If more people actually live within the town centres, those residents become customers for nearby businesses. A cafe doesn't necessarily need thousands of shoppers passing every day, but if there are hundreds of people living and working nearby, that's a completely different way of thinking about a town centre. And this is where Middleton Grange becomes particularly interesting. If you look around Hartlepool today, there are regeneration projects taking place in several different areas. The challenge is connecting them together. A successful town centre can't simply be a renovated building surrounded by empty properties. People need to be able to move comfortably between different attractions and different parts of the town. Middleton Grange sits in an important position within the wider picture. If the area can be successfully regenerated, it could help create stronger links between different parts of central Hartlepool. That's why the long-term vision talks about a compact and connected town centre. Rather than isolated regeneration projects, the aim is for each investment to contribute towards the wider revival of Hartlepool. Of course, regeneration plans always look impressive on paper. The real test starts when the construction starts, and more importantly, when buildings are finished. Will businesses now want to move in? Will people use the new facilities? Will private investment follow the public investment? And will residents actually choose to spend more time in Hartlepool town centre? These are questions nobody can answer with any certainty yet. There's also understandable skepticism. People have watched shops close and town centres decline over many years. Challenging that won't happen overnight. A renovated building itself won't solve the problem, and neither will some new paving or attractive seat furniture. For regeneration to succeed, the town centre has to become people, a place people generally want to visit. The Middleton Grange project is now moving into an important period. Hartlepool Borough Council and Hartlepool Redevelopment Corporation are working together to take the development forward. The Development Corporation purchased a long-term lease of Hartlepool Shopping Centre in December 23, giving it an important role in shaping what happens here. The redevelopment programmes include work around the former Bins building and the north-eastern part of the shopping centre. The wider funded Middleton Grange project currently has a deadline of March 2028, so over the next couple of years we should gradually start seeing more visible evidence of what the future holds. And this means it could be a fascinating place to revisit, because the Middleton Grange we're walking around today could look very different in a few years' time. But what happens next? It's also important to document Middleton Grange as it is today. Town centres are constantly changing, shops seem to permanently disappear, buildings are demolished, new streets appear, and surprisingly quickly we forget what used to be there. Photographs and videos eventually become historical records. Someone watching this video 20 or 30 years from now might be amazed at how Middleton Grange looked in 2026. Or perhaps they'll remember coming here themselves, meeting friends, going shopping with their parents, or buying something from a favourite store, or simply walking through the centre on the way to somewhere else. Buildings aren't just bricks and concrete, they're part of people's memories. Middleton Grange is therefore approaching an important moment in its history. The traditional shopping centre model that sustained places for decades like this has changed. Trying to recreate the shopping centre of the 80s and 90s probably isn't the answer. Instead, Hartlepool is attempting something different, a smaller, more concentrated retail centre surrounded by a broader mix of uses. Restored historic buildings, new public places, better connections through the town centre, and potentially more reasons for people to live and work and spend time here. Whether these ambitions are ultimately successful remains to be seen. but after years of decline and uncertainty, significant efforts have now been made to give this part of Hartlepool a new purpose, and I'll certainly be returning as the work progresses to document the changes, because this isn't just the redevelopment of a shopping centre, it's an attempt to redefine what the centre of Hartlepool will be for the next generation. So what do you think? Can the redevelopment of Middleton Grange bring people back into Hartlepool town centre? What would you like to see here? Perhaps more independent shops, restaurants, cafes, entertainment, housing, or green spaces, or perhaps something completely different? Let me know in the comments. If you've enjoyed coming along this walk around Hartlepool, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. I'll be following the redevelopment over the coming months and years, so hopefully we'll be able to look back at this video in the future and see just how much Middleton Grange has changed. Thank you very much for watching, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next one, and please enjoy the remaining couple of minutes of footage.